Hello and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have Jill Andrews. I had a chance to chat with Jill about everything with her within her career. We go way back and we go deep, and we talk about her. If there's going to be new music with Hush Kids, she's a part of that group with Peter Grunwald. And we talk about her new album, Modern Age, which comes out August 18th. And really great album. Recommend checking it out. It was interesting. We both kind of thought we had talked last year, and there was about a year ago that Hush Kids EP came out. Apparently, neither of us are good at time because I looked back and it was August of 2021 that I got chatted with Jill and Peter from Hush Kids about their music. So it was great to talk to Jill again. We'll get to her in just a few minutes. Before we do, I'll talk a little bit about kind of what's going on in my world right now. It's Father's Day when I'm recording this, and so I'm going to put on the hat that makes sense. Best dad. My daughter got this for me a year or two ago for Father's Day, and so I haven't. It's not what I really wear around, but I wear in my heart. I'd say more than on the program. But I will kind of share that what I feel like a pretty darn good dad right now after Father's Day today. My kids both they both made me cards, which was really nice. Here I'll share the cards, although they're in this sharing they're going to be kind of sideways, I think. Oh no, that one worked out. This is for my son. So he says he thinks I'm so nice and he loves me so much. He'll always love me. That's pretty sweet. And this is for my daughter. And I don't know if I can. I don't think I can turn it. But for whatever reason, it's sideways in this video. But she found some dad jokes and thought it was pretty clever. And I appreciate the gesture. So thank you, kids, for making me feel like a good dad. She also gave me a pair of camo Crocs and some giblets or whatever they're called that go in the Crocs. She got a couple of those today and streamered around the house after I went to sleep. It did wake me up because I'm a light sleeper, but then I went back to sleep and let her do her thing. And she likes to streamer the stairs, which is, I think, exceptionally challenging for me because I don't want to break it right away. So I do feel like I have to climb under it, and at my age, it's difficult to climb under streamers and kind of limbo. It's not the easiest, and I wanted to wait till she woke up, which is several hours later. So several trips up and down the stairs for me with making sure that the streamer stayed intact until she woke up. But I appreciated the gestures for my kids and feeling like I'm doing okay in the dad department. It's a challenge. It's not always easy. There's got to be give and take, and at the end, as long as you know that they care and that they know that I care, that's what matters most. I had a challenging situation with my dad this week. Speaking of Father's Day, I was supposed to go to the A's game with him. We had tickets. We go usually every year. It's kind of a joint birthday, Father's Day thing. And this time I realized, my kids are out of school and their mom is working and I don't have any support for them. So can my dad's wife hang with the kids while we're at the game, or can we bring the kids or split? None of those options work for my dad. He was not open to it. And that was challenging for me to get beneath, because it's like he's just didn't want to interact with the kids. He wanted adult time with me. Well, they're part of my package. We're a package deal, right? So they came from my package, but they were a package deal. That's what I meant. Okay, and so so I said, okay, well, I can't go to the game then. I offered him the tickets. He turned them down. So instead, I took the kids to the A's game, and I was just convinced the whole time the A's are going to lose. They're playing the Rays. They've had a rough season, but they were on a little bit of a winning streak. So who knows? There was always a chance that they were going to win. And You know what? I had a good time with the kids. They got to meet Stomper, the A's mascot, and yes, the A's did lose to the Rays, but it was a closer game than I had anticipated, so that was fun. And on Father's Day, no text message or call from my mom. She's difficult. She's very difficult, and um, where we don't always mesh the best, and sometimes we go through ways. Sometimes we get along well, and then other times not as much. And there was a challenging situation there this weekend as well with her, and apparently that leads her to not wish me a happy Father's Day. Father's Day, which is fine. It's a superficial holiday, just a day to remember, hey, your dad, thanks for the efforts, right? I put the gesture out there for Mother's Day, and I got her some things for Mother's Day, but apparently the feeling's not reciprocated. So that's how it goes. Whatever. That's my story. So I'll leave it at that. I think it's a good time to bring in Jill. So why don't we go ahead and bring in Jill Andrews and have a chat. She's also going to play a song for the program, which I'm super excited about. So we'll get to that later in the program. Here's Jill Andrews. Jill, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you? It's good to see you.
I am good. Yeah, good to see you again as well, and great to get to talk to you under the context of your own solo music versus Hush Kids. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about Hush Kids and where that's at too. But
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, great to catch up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have a lot I want to talk to you about in terms of kind of the balance between the two and kind of where you find yourself creatively between your different projects and how they fit into one category or another, one project or another, really. But really, I want to kind of start back at the beginning with you a little bit more. One thing I was reading on your website, you listened to Janet Jackson as a kid and kind of would emulate some of what she did. Tell me what it was about Janet that did it for you.
Oh, I mean, Janet is just awesome. And she was, I mean, at that moment, she was like the it lady. And I loved her dancing. I loved her singing. Yeah, I thought she was really cool. And I have never been like trained in dancing myself. So I've always looked at it kind of like people are on a pedestal when they're really good dancers, kind of like, oh. So yeah, like learning any of her dance moves was just incredibly fun for me as a kid.
Yeah. Did you like emulate them from the videos like that she had, and you would just be like doing that? Did you have friends that you did that with too, or was it?
Yeah, for the talent show, I think it was in fourth grade. Me and my friends like wore black vests with like they were diamond studded, and we did that move that Janet did where she stands on the chair and pushes it over, and
Yeah.
It was like my friends was on the left side and I was on the right side, and we did that kind of simultaneously, and it was so awesome.
You got it down. How many broken bones did you get before you got her?
No broken bones. I might get a broken bone if I tried it these days, but I think this is a good reminder. I think I should live a little and try that move again.
You should. And can you do it with the guitar also, or is it that just throws everything off balance wise, right?
Yeah.
So,
That would probably be really bad.
yeah. Did you get to see Janet live ever? Or
No, I didn't.
I saw she has a tour that she's touring now and playing shows again, and I'm like, wow.
Oh, that would be incredible. It would be so incredible to see her. Yeah, I had her tapes. I had her tapes, I had her CDs, just kind of through the eras of Janet. I loved Michael Jackson. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And so at what point did you know you wanted to be a performer? It wasn't that much longer until you started like writing your own songs, right?
Yeah, so I wrote a lot of short stories as a kid and a lot of poetry. But I didn't really start writing songs until I started playing guitar, which was when I was 19. So it was a little bit later on in life. And yeah, I just, I learned a few chords on the guitar, and I had a few songbooks, and I got really bored with the songbooks very quickly. I think they were pretty antiquated too. So I just immediately kind of pushed those away and started writing songs that was much more interesting to me.
Yeah. Who gave you your first guitar? Tell me, did you take lessons, like, or did you teach yourself?
Yeah, I had a friend, Randy, he's an adult, like my parents' really good friend. He let me borrow his guitar, and I had it for probably a year or two, and I learned how to play on that. And then I got a guitar. I was a camp counselor at a camp, and all the camp counselors were playing the guitar. Like the first week I went, that was one thing I noticed. Everyone had a guitar and everyone knew how to play like G, C, and D, because all those camp songs. And I came home from camp the first week and I was like, I have to buy a guitar this weekend. And so my parents took me to the music store and we bought a guitar, and it was a Jasmine. I remember that. It was a Jasmine. And I had that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. And they were really supportive. Like, tell me about their involvement in your kind of musical ventures.
Yeah, my parents have always been very supportive. Yeah, I mean, they bought that guitar for me. That's a prime example.
That's all they needed to do, right? Just give you that tool,
Yeah,
and you're in.
yeah, that set me in a good direction for sure. And I mean, they're kind of my biggest fans. They always have been. My mom always knows more about my career than I do. It's like, oh, I saw your blah 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 on the blah blah blah, and I'm like, wait, what? That kind of stuff. It's just awesome. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Do they come to your shows too, or?
They do. I mean, the ones that they logistically can come to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. Yeah. So tell me kind of about the Everybodyfields. Was that like one of your first real bands that you were a part of?
Yes, it was the very first band musical venture that I was a part of. So the aforementioned summer camp that I worked at, there was another camp counselor there named Sam Quinn, and Sam and I met there, and he and I formed the Everybodyfields. He had already been writing songs and playing guitar for like 7 years at that point. We were both 19. We had like a month apart birthdays. And yeah, so it was a few years after that. We both went to East Tennessee State University as well. So we kept up with each other and we were good friends. And yeah, we decided to start a band a few years later and off to the races.
Yeah. Tell me about writing with Sam. What was that process like for you, and how did you find that balance in that project?
Well, we didn't really write a lot together in the same room. What we would do, we wrote a few songs in the same room, but we had very different processes. So I either wrote songs completely by myself, or he wrote songs completely by himself, or I would start a song and then I'd say, hey, what do you think about this? And then he'd finish it. Or like he'd come back, weeks later, month later, whatever, and be like, here, I worked on this a little bit, and then we kind of work at it from there. So it was kind of an interesting process.
Yeah, and how far did you get to go with that band? Like, how far did the tour reach? Like, tell me about that experience as you're kind of getting out of your area with that band.
Yeah, so we traveled all over the US. We never left the US, but we traveled everywhere. The West Coast, Midwest, Northeast, all over the place. And we were doing really well. We released 3 albums, and and then I quit the band in 2000. I think it was 2009. I was pregnant with my son Nico, who's 14 now. It's crazy. He just turned 14.
Wow.
Yeah, and I couldn't hang anymore. Like it was a party lifestyle for sure.
Yeah.
We were doing well, but we weren't doing well enough to like for me to have good care for myself in that position, you know. I was sitting in the van like waiting on the guys to get out of the bar at like 3 a.m. every night, and it was just terrible. It was terrible.
Not what you want to be when you have a kid and you're just like, I can't do
Yeah,
that, right? So,
yeah. And I, you know, when that for me was a huge turning point. For them, it was not. That was just what they
yeah.
did, and they weren't really, yeah, weren't really in the position to change their ways. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And is that when you kind of started your own music also? Because The Mirror came out in 2011, right? That was your first solo album?
Yeah, I think it came out in 2012, I think. But
Oh,
yes,
okay.
I started my solo career in 2009, right after I had Nico. So yeah, it really wasn't that
Mhm.
long. Um, I released an EP in 2009, and I actually, the day that I had Nico, I was supposed to go record the EP, and and then like my water broke and all that. It just started happening, and I like called the midwife, and I was like, "Hey, I'm supposed to record today. Can I just?" And she's like, no, you just need to chill out." So
You thought that scheduling was going to work out. You're like, there's no way this can go wrong, right? So,
I was like, we have the songs, I have the band, we've been practicing, we're like so tight, let's do this. And then anyways, so I had to wait 2 weeks. We went in 2 weeks later, and it was great. It was great.
yeah, yeah. In between feedings, recording, song, feed, song,
Yeah,
pretty much, right?
absolutely.
And on The Mirror, you have a song called Nico. I mean, is that so? You wrote this song about him. Tell me kind of that experience of putting yourself in that place, writing, for your kid who's, I mean, at that point, two going to three, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds like pretty good math. Yeah, so I'm bad at math, so that actually wasn't
Leave it to me. I'll handle the math for this today.
yeah, I think that for me, I write songs about um what's going on in my life, kind of what is in my, you know, in my daily life, what I'm experiencing, who I'm experiencing with, the feelings surrounding all of that. And yeah, Nico is a huge part of my daily life then and now still, luckily. I only have him for 4 more years if he moves out at 18. So
Yeah.
I'm holding on very tight at this point. But yeah, I think I love my kids, and I hold them very, very dear. And so it just kind of flowed out of me, I guess. I was touring a lot, and I was touring a lot, not a lot, but I was touring enough to where I had to go, all right, I'm gonna leave you with grandma and grandpa, and I'm gonna go on the road, and when I come back, everything's gonna be cool. But he was little, and it was always sad to leave, you know. And so I wrote a song called Wake Up Nico, and it's kind of about like, you know, just saying to him, hey, I'll be back, and I love you, and you're safe, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean something I get from your writing. I mean, whether it's that album or your new album, which we'll talk about. I mean, you paint such a picture. I mean, it's such a visual, such like it puts you in the kind of into the song. Tell me kind of about how you get to that place where you can write such vivid songs and kind of just put yourself out there so much.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm a huge feeler. I think that's part of it. I'm a huge feeler. I can really step inside of someone else's shoes very easily, too easily, honestly, because I'm a huge empath, and it's exhausting. And I get really wrapped up in other people's negative feelings or positive feelings, or whatever it is. I just get really wrapped up in it, and it can be hard for me. So those are the negative parts about it, but the positive parts about it are, I think I can just kind of, I don't know, I have a kind of a front row seat to other people's stories and the way that they may be feeling, and to the way that I'm feeling, and just and all of that. And I'm also I'm also a very visual person. I'm always, when I'm walking outside, I'm always the first one to notice a change, like a flower that's bloomed or a tiny bug on the top of a leaf or something. I'm just very alert to differences and to changes and things like that. And so that probably helps.
Yeah. And I read, I mean, you just have such a creative outlet, even outside of music also, right? Like whether it's with your kids or with any other activities that you do, you find a way to kind of really be engaging and connected and present with all of these different outlets. Is that, I mean, that's obviously, is there an intentionality to that? How much effort does that take to do that? As someone who has two kids, I know it's difficult to be connected like that. And even with my son with Pokemon, it's like I want to be on a level with him, but it's just not interesting to me, and I'm trying. But how does that kind of manifest itself for you?
Well, I would like to say there's more intention with it. I'm a very free flowing kind of person. I always have been. And there are definitely downsides to that where I feel lost sometimes. I have so many things I want to do, so many things I'm capable of doing, but I'm just like, what am I going to do next? The world is so vast and I have so many desires. I have so many things I want to do. And so, yeah, I kind of just float from one thing to the next. If I'm being really honest,
Yeah.
I walk outside and I'm like, oh, I should plant some basil because that basil plant is dying and I should have two basil plants. So like right before this interview, that's what I was doing. So
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And just, walking around the house, seeing like an empty space, I'm like, oh, I should create a piece of art for that space on the wall. And so, some days I'll spend time doing that. It just really varies, and it probably drives my family a little bit nuts, but
Yeah.
but it is, I'm really, I don't know, I'm really grateful that I'm not worried about retiring. I'll tell you that much. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not gonna be one of those people that's bored or lost when I'm retired. I'm just gonna be busy all the time because I don't know. I love creating things and working on things and building things and writing and all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a tour coming up, and you're starting in August, when the time the album comes out, right? So you're going to hit the East Coast, you're going to hit the UK. What does that look like for you in terms of balancing this stuff that you enjoy, your gardening, your connection, your kids? Like, I mean, do they come with you on tour, and kind of how do you kind of shift to that kind of frame where you're like, okay, moving over here for a bit, right?
Yeah, it's a tricky shift, I will say. I'm kind of a homebody in a lot of ways. I really enjoy my space here, and I'm a little bit of an introvert. I didn't really realize that um, until fairly recently, but I just like my people, like my small,
Yeah.
family and a few friends and things like that. But um I have to ramp up to it emotionally to get out there and just, it takes a lot of energy to perform every night for
Yeah.
people and to talk to people at the merch table, which I love to do. I really love to do that. And it gives me a lot of that actually really does give me a lot of energy as well. But it also, I feel so depleted after a show. It's funny because some people are just like, all right, let's party after a show. But after a show, I've always been the one that's like, I gotta go to bed. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
like right after I get done with the merch table, I just go sit on the couch and I'm like, oh, and I get like a glass of wine and I just sit and can't really talk to anybody because I'm just so tired. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it for sure. I'm really, really excited to play these new songs for everybody. And I'm gonna be out there playing with a band both in the US and in the UK. And so the songs sound incredible with a full band. It's just going to be great.
How did you choose your band? Tell me about the band that you pulled together.
Yeah, so Lucas Morton produced the new album called Modern Age, and he also produced my last record, Thirties. And we've been playing together for years. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays keys and guitar and bass and all kinds of stuff, and he sings with me. So I've got Lucas, and then Chris Farney is going to be playing drums, and he's awesome. We've played together a bunch, and then Will Honecker is going to be playing bass. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. Lucas, I think, is going to switch from keys to guitar. And then in the UK, it's interesting. I have a completely different band. They're British, and I met a guy. I played there in November, and I met a guy on the very last night who was playing in a girls band named Kezia Gill, and she's a British artist over there. She's amazing. And he was playing bass with her, and he came up to me. We kind of hung out during the whole show, and he came up to me afterwards, and he was like, "Hey, if you ever want me to help you form a band over here, I'd love to." And then he followed up with me. He sent me an email. I mean, and it just, yeah. So he's like tour managing for me over there, and he's got a whole band together for me. So I'm really excited.
Took a lot of the work off the plate of figuring that stuff out, right? With all the logistics and everything. When you're not over there, and you know may not have those connections built. You're like, hey, we got somebody who can help out here.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah. Do you? I mean, while you're over there, is there anything you want to hit? Also, if you've been to the UK before, I presume, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm getting to go to Ireland this time for the first time, and I'm
Nice.
very, very excited about that. So it's going to be a pretty grueling touring schedule, so I won't have a whole lot of time for, vacationing, but I don't know. It's always just so fun to go and see new places, and I do think I will get to Ireland a little early, so hopefully I'll get some downtime to just kind of, chill.
Yeah. And so your kids are coming with you, or they're staying back? No. Okay, good.
No, they're staying back. It would just be too expensive to make all that happen. So yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot logistically. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you mentioned 30s. One thing that I thought was pretty cool, you put out a book along with the album in Portrait and Prose. Tell me about that book. It's you talk about kind of single mothering and obviously being in your 30s at that point. So tell me kind of where the idea to put a book out came from and about the book itself.
Yeah. Well, the idea came from this, the songs basically. I recorded it with my friend Lucas. He recorded it in my basement. So where I am right now, this was the drum room.
Uh-huh.
There's no longer a studio down here except for a little setup that I have, but we recorded it in this basement, which is so fun. And I was listening to the songs. He was kind of working on he was overdubbing something, adding like a guitar part, and I was listening to the song The Party. And The Party, I wrote that about just feeling really lonely in I was in a relationship that wasn't going well, and I really truly felt like a single parent. We had a daughter together. She was an infant at the time, and that part of parenting is so hard. It just is so emotionally draining and physically draining, especially on the mom. And I was nursing, and so I was really struggling with loneliness and resentment and all of that. And I was sitting there on the couch. Fast forward, I wrote the song The Party. I was sitting on the couch with Lucas, listening to it, and I had a vision in my head about a really beautiful photo. Like if I could set up a scene, what I saw was me in the middle, me like wearing I really like 60s, 70s vibe, like that kind of era, holding an infant in my arms, but staring straight ahead, and there's a party going on around me. And I just sat there for a minute, probably cried a little bit because I'm always crying about something that's inspiring to me. So, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna talk to my friend Fairlight, who's a photographer, and we're gonna take that picture. And then I thought, I could also write about that, because I could write about the story. Like I really felt like when the album was almost done, I just had so much more to say, because it was really a very cathartic process for me to write the book, because it's all about my life, you know,
Yeah.
in those hard times, kind of trying to get through that period of my life and just working through it. And yeah, so every song has a corresponding story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really cool. And so kind of as you are putting this together, I mean, did you envision it as a book, or did you what kind of take to other channels that you thought might that you express yourself in this manner with what you had that didn't fit into the album?
Um, sorry, what was the were you
It's yeah, yeah, it was more of kind of, did you envision it as a book the whole time, like kind of this all this extra that you had to say that didn't come out in the album? Like, was that always kind of as you kind of got through it as a book?
Yeah, I think it more developed into a book idea. You know, it was very daunting to me at first, because I had never
Yeah.
written a book. I mean, I'd written stories and things, and I really love writing. It's very fun, when it flows, at least. But so yeah, I think progressively it just kind of I realized that it was a possibility, and I had you know, my team supporting me and cheering me on. And you know, I had Fairlight, the photographer, and my friend Shannon Miller, who was the story editor. She's a really good friend of mine. She's an amazing writer, so she really helped me along as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
before we hop into the new album, I want to kind of ask you. You've had two groups, both with. I mean, you're partnered with a kind of a male counterpart as well. Tell me about the balance between, you know, kind of the female voice and the male voice, and kind of where you find yourself, kind of connecting with that.
With Hush Kids.
With Hush Kids, and you know, and Everybody Fields, right? So, but obviously more currently with Hush Kids.
Yeah, so where do I find the balance with the male
Yeah.
counterpart? Is that your question?
Yeah, I guess I would say I really like the balance, and I like a lot of times when it doesn't, I feel like it doesn't happen a lot, you know, but where you have a female vocalist and a male vocalist kind of together as equal voices on a project, right? I mean, sometimes you'll have a female in the background or something, right? But actually finding that balance is kind of a cohort, you could say, on an album like that. Tell me, you know, how that presence connects for you.
Um, I've always loved singing with someone else. I mean, that's how I started out in music, really, in the Everybodyfields. Sam, so I would sing lead and Sam would sing harmony, and then he would sing lead and I would sing harmony. So we were always singing together. And in Hush Kids, that's very similar, um, to what Peter Groenwald and I do. And it's just fun. I mean, Peter's got an amazing voice. He's just, yeah, and his harmonies are so beautiful. And we sing so well together. The first time we wrote together, we just knew, we were like, wow, this sounds great. This sounds really good.
Yeah.
And this song that we wrote is really special and cool and different. Um, so yeah, the balance is fun. I like both, you know. I like being in a band and doing that sort of thing. and I like doing my solo stuff too. I don't know, it's fun being the boss. It's also fun not being the boss, and
Not
having
being able to sit back.
yeah, it's fun to like have another person to share the responsibilities with. So.
Yeah. Are you working on new stuff for Hush Kids?
Actually, we are. This is very apropos. We haven't in a long time. Well, we released an EP, gosh, I don't know, maybe a year ago. I could be totally wrong with that date. But
Yeah. It's probably about a year ago that we talked, so
okay.
yeah.
And then just the other day we wrote a song and we recorded it on Tuesday. So just like 2 days ago. And yeah, so we're planning on releasing that in late July, just kind of out of nowhere. Bam, here's a song. It's gonna be really, really
cool. Nice. I like it. Yeah. Let's talk about the new album a bit, right? So Modern Age comes out August 18th. I mean, the album is great, and there's parts that I want to talk about to you about it. I mean, I guess the overall kind of background on it, you sang it at memorial for a childhood friend that you lost, and that kind of stemmed the way to some of these songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to ask you kind of first about that, about how difficult was it to put yourself out there in a place where you're so vulnerable in a setting like that? I'm fortunate I haven't had to, say goodbye to any of my friends in my age group or anything, yet. But I mean, I can imagine that would be pretty unnerving and vulnerable. I mean, right? You'd have to be pretty vulnerable.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was a few years ago and we had grown apart, but as kids, we lived in the same neighborhood. She was a very close friend, and we would walk to each other's houses, and we rode the same bus. We were at the bus stop together, and we spent a lot of time together. We rode in the same car to senior week to Myrtle Beach. And she drove this like purple Ford Explorer, and she used to blast like Hank Williams Jr. to the maximum. And I mean, I have a lot of really amazing memories about her because she was hilarious, and she was like, just her personality was huge. I mean, it was just huge. She was one of those people that was so funny and so loud, and her hair was platinum and it was so curly. And she was just a brilliant person. And we after high school we kept in touch a little bit, but we mostly lost touch. She stayed in my hometown, Johnson City, Tennessee, and I moved away. And we just went down two totally different paths. She got into drugs and kind of the wrong crowd, and I did my thing. We know what my thing is, but yeah, so it was very sad. It was very, very sad. It's always horrible when somebody young like that passes away so unnecessarily. And there was a lot of mental health things happening, I think. And so yeah, I wrote a song called Better Life from on Modern Age that is all about her. And again, just it's not hard for me to kind of step into someone's shoes like that for whatever reason, because I knew her so well. And so
yeah. And well, so the album starts out with 80s Baby is the first track on the album, and I enjoy it, and I shared it with my son for a different reason, because he not an 80s baby like me, but some things from the 80s stick around, and Mario references are popular right now. So I was like, listen, hear that, yeah. So tell me kind of about pulling together this song with kind of references to our youth.
Yeah, I think about my youth a whole lot. And so I guess kind of the way this kind of all came about was, I went to my friend's memorial service in my hometown, and I got to drive around and see my old house. And no one I mean, my family doesn't live there anymore, so I got to see my old house. I drove by her house. I drove by all my old friends' houses, all my old like haunts, the field that I used to play in, the fort, the zip line. It's all gone, but I remember it all. And the field where we buried my cat, and I got poison ivy on my butt.
Oh, not at the same time as burying the cat, right?
That was TMI, but it's true. I used to play with the
Yeah.
can neighborhood. Anyways, it just brought back so many memories. And it was just, for me, it's good to kind of get out of my comfort zone, to leave my house, to go travel, because I feel so inspired, and I felt so inspired on that trip. And when I came home, I kind of just couldn't stop thinking about my childhood, and just how lucky I was and how grateful I am. Um, and I think about just, I have a 14-year-old boy and I have a 7-year-old girl, and I'm sad for them, because I feel like childhood is so different now. And for me, I
Yeah.
had so much freedom. I was always on my scooter or just walking to my friends' houses. My parents didn't have to call to set up a play date. I was not at home. Like, I would get home from school, I would maybe watch an episode of Saved by the Bell and eat some fruit roll-ups, and
Yeah.
then I would just leave, and I would go hang out with my friends until dinner time, and it was amazing. And it's just so different now. It's not, for my kids, it's not very common that they can just go to someone's house unannounced, just go knock on their door. Ooh, knock on their door. It's like everyone's so busy, and kids are so busy, and everyone's got their head in a screen. That's the biggest
Yeah.
difference.
It's a huge difference, right? That screen's attached. My daughter's 13, and it's like getting moments of detachment from her is a struggle.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not the same as when we were a kid.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's so much about what this album is about. Just kind of comparing, um, yeah, just, I don't know, comparing the way it was to how it is now. And modern age to me kind of sounds like space age. I think that's part of it. It was like, and so I have this futuristic element, because I do feel like I'm living in the future. If I would have looked at where I am now and how the world is, like with the advent of AI and all of this stuff, it is like I could have never imagined it. And so that was kind of, on the album cover, there's a picture of me, and I'm dressed like like it's a mod style from the 60s. I'm dressed like that, but yet I have this globe around my head. And Fairlight Hubbard, she's the photographer that I always work with, we had this idea to use this globe, and it's basically like a futuristic viewfinder. So if you look really closely on the globe, you'll see pictures. I don't know if you've done that or not, but there's pictures
I
on it,
haven't zoomed in that. Yeah.
and they're real pictures of my childhood. So yeah, probably most people haven't
I,
noticed.
I see it in the reflection. Yeah. I mean, like that's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm zooming. Yeah. Okay.
yep.
Yeah. And
There's two
that's
pictures
pretty neat.
on there.
Two pictures of what?
Of my high school boyfriend on there.
Oh really? Yeah.
Which is really
The
fun.
kissy faces over on the right. Yeah. Baby. Your parents with you as a baby?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I like it. Yeah. So the other song I want to talk to you about from the album before we help you play a song is the single you just put out actually in the last day or two, and that is "Wrong Place, Wrong Time." And I'm listening to that song, right? And I wrote down a lyric that I just wanted to ask you about in particular. Your glass can be half full, but your cup's the empty kind, right? And I'm stewing on that a little bit. I wanted to hear from your perspective, kind of where did that come from, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, what it means is I just feel like there are those people out there that have it's all about perspective, right? Um, they see they see their glass, and some people look at it like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. You're doing well. And then other people would see it and they're like, no, I don't have anything. I want more. I want different. I want better. And it's just the song is just all about gratefulness versus ungratefulness and how sad it is. I have people like that I run into in my life sometimes, and um, it's so sad when somebody has so much already. They have the perfect everything, and they just can't see it. They can't be grateful, and they're just kind of pissed off. So
Yeah,
um yeah, it makes me sad for them.
yeah. How do you translate that song into the video that you made for it? I'm curious. As I mean, really creative video also, and it kind of same sort of like it flipped everything upside down, a bit too, and it kind of feels like what you're telling me a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So in the video, it's a prince and a prince and a princess, and they both are kind of living in different worlds, but they're living together simultaneously. And he sees everything upside down. So like whenever he's in the picture, it's all upside down. And whenever she's in the picture, and I'm she, by the way,
Hmm.
it's all just normal. And yeah, I think that is how some people see the world. They see it so vastly different than other folks.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really cool video. I like it.
Thank
So
you.
good
Thank
work. Um, and as we wrap on the album, tell me about work. The kind of the differences in working with Lucas Morton on this album versus 30s. Like, I mean, what did he pull out of you, for this album, and kind of how was that process different?
you. Well, we worked with other like Tyler Chester is another producer. He's produced Madison Cunningham and Sarah Bareilles. He worked on this album as well. He didn't produce, but he was a big part of the sound. I flew him out from LA, and he was one of the session musicians. So he played 3 days in the studio, and then we went back to Lucas's studio, and he laid down a bunch more stuff. He played bass, and he played a lot of the pads and like the electronic kind of elements. Um, and so I think his influence was also really just kind of different. And um, yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, I love working with Lucas. It's always so fun, and um, yeah, we just had a blast making this record. I think it turned out really, really well. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, I like it. Good stuff. I'm sure you're ready for it to come out and the tour and everything, and be able to play the shows and have people hear it live. You know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah. Well, Jill, you mind playing a song for the program?
No, not at all.
Oh,
Got
cool.
my guitar right here.
Yeah.
Well, this one is called Wrong Place, Wrong Time. Just came out. Well, the light shines on your face every single day.
but you turn yourself away to brave the night. By the time the clouds roll in, some will lose and some will win. Some will take it on the chin and some blame the sky. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. If the lining's ever silver, it's impossible to find. Your glass can be half full, but your cup's the empty kind. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Ooh. Looks like the light is red. It's a parking lot ahead. The traffic should be dead this time of day. When you finally get home, no one calls your telephone. When you find yourself alone, you start to cry. 'Cause you're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. If the lining's ever silver, it's impossible to find. Your glass can be half full, but your cup's the empty kind. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Bad luck will always find you, no matter what you do. When you always call for it, it will come to you. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. Your glass can be overflowing, but your cup's the empty kind. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time. At the wrong time. Ooh.
Beautiful.
You.
I love it. I love it. It's so great. Oh gosh, what a strong song. I love it, Jill.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Jill, thank you for taking the time today and giving us more insight into. Hey, of course. Anytime you want to play songs, I'm always over there. Like, trying not to cry and everything. No, it's so great. Well, I wish you luck on the album coming out here in August and the tour ahead and the new Hush Kids and all of the things you got working on and raising a teenager too. I just entered into that world in the last week and it's fun. So
Thank you. So nice to talk to you again, Steve.
that was my interview with Jill Andrews here on Concert Pipeline, and that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right. Yes, I have some stories to wind out the program. The first one is a little devastating. there was a mass shooting near Washington State Music Festival that left at least 2 dead. This is in just today, so there's still information coming in about it, I think. But there were 3 more injured. Suspect shot at one point randomly into the crowd near the Gorgia Amphitheater, where the Beyond Wonderland Electronic Dance Music Festival was taking place. And officers responded to the call at 8:23 p.m. last night. There were reports of shots fired in the crowd. The shooter then walked away from the where the incident happened. He added that after law enforcement moved into the area, he continued to randomly shoot into the crowd, and the suspect was eventually taken into custody. 2 people were killed, 3 injured, including the suspect. So he was injured, one of the 3 injured, I guess. We don't know what the motives were, what the intentions were of the shooter, and we'll have to wait to see if we can find that information out. And no names released. Concert in the small city of Gorge, around 149 miles east of Seattle, was going ahead as planned. 307 mass shootings in the U.S. in 2023 to date. It's too much. It's too much. Something's got to change. And I'm not here to bring, kind of speculate as to what those answers are, but many casualties and lives lost for no reason, really, right? On the note of Father's Day, I'll put the hat back on for a moment. Trent Reznor is not interested in touring again in the future. He says, "I don't want to be away from my kids." And that's something, sometimes you just got to make that decision and just kind of be okay with it, right? Like you'd be like, okay, I've done my thing, and I can still make music, but I don't need to tour, and I can prioritize, time with kids over playing shows. So he's speaking to Rick Rubin for the Telegrammation podcast. He discussed a wide range of topics, including being on the road. And he said, "I don't want to miss their lives to go do a thing that I'm grateful to be able to do. And I'm appreciative that you're here to see it, but I've done it a lot, He said, he added, "I kind of want to feel okay and want to make sure my family's okay. And that's great. That's okay." He said that being a father to 5 children has radically shaped every bit of who he is and why he does anything. And the music has fallen down the list of priorities. The importance of music, or lack of importance of music in today's world, from my perspective, is a little defeating, he says. So he's taking time to be with his kids. And I'm trying to remember who I saw earlier kind of did the same thing also, and said the same thing, that really prioritizing time with kids is more important than making music. So someone else kind of leaving music is Rod Stewart. He's planning to leave all the rock and roll stuff behind after a 2023 tour. It's a little less surprising, I'd say, due to his age and tenure in the music business. And he did an interview with BBC Breakfast. He said he isn't retiring and that he's looking to go to instead change musical genres from rock to swing. He's ready for some swing music, huh? He says, "I've just done a swing album with Jules Holland, which is going to come out next year. So I want to go into that direction. I just want to leave all the rock and roll stuff behind for a while, maybe," he says. He added that he was really looking forward to doing something else, and that his forthcoming work with Jules Holland Band borders on rock and roll anyway. It's just not Maggie May and Do You Think I'm Sexy? So he's going to stop playing the hits for a little bit, but maybe I'll come back to it. Who knows, right? That is Rod Stewart. Noel Gallagher, he criticized U.S. crowds over terrible reception to new songs. And he says, "People should have bought the fucking album then, shouldn't they?" The songs he's performing live off his latest album, Council Skies, aren't getting a good reception from the U.S. audiences. And he's said in an interview, the response to him opening his sets with new material has been terrible so far. He told Rolling Stone, "It's terrible. I'm starting off with 4 or 5 new ones. People should have bought the fucking album. They stand there with their mouths open thinking, what the fuck is this?" He's been opening his current tour with Pretty Boy, Council Skies, Easy Now, We're Gonna Get There in the End, and Open the Door, See What You Find, all of which appear on his 4th album. Former Oasis singer, songwriter, and guitarist released the album earlier this month, which landed number 2 in the UK charts. So it's doing well there, but just not here in the US. And you know what? I can't say he's wrong. You're buying tickets to Noel Gallagher, and he has a new album. You should probably listen to the new album, even if you want to hear other stuff. Maybe you want to hear the Oasis songs. I don't know if he's doing Oasis songs, but he should. And so yeah, I mean he's not stoked on the blank stares he's getting, and just listen to the songs before you go to a show. I took my son to a show, Eric Hutchinson, last week, and I want to play a couple songs on from that show. I think I'll probably do it on the next podcast because this one's pretty packed. But I played that album for my son for a couple weeks leading up to the album that he did in his entirety for weeks leading up to that show, and it helped him like the show better. So if you want to enjoy the show, listen to the music. But that being said, it was not a good album. Sorry, no, maybe don't stack the deck with those songs early on. Just kind of guessing there. So one more story to wind up the program, and of course, in true fashion, has to do with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters. They debuted 10-minute song "The Teacher" live. So this was performed for the first time in Arkansas this week, and this is on their new album. But here we are, and so the song is thought to be inspired by Grohl's mother, Virginia, a teacher who passed away last year. I mean, it makes sense, right? So they played the song in its entirety. It's pretty bold for a band to play a 10-minute song, unless it's, Guns N' Roses' November Rain. That's one. I know my favorite Andrew McMahon has a 10-minute song. Constantine is like 9 or 10 minutes, and he only plays that usually once a year on November 11th. Once in a while, it'll sneak out, and they did it for a whole tour, actually, in the past year or two. But yeah, they played the song in its entirety, and I was like, oh, is this one that's going to make it into a live set? It's a significant commitment as part of a set to play a 10-minute song. So, but they did it, and who knows? I'm seeing them in August in Lake Tahoe. Super excited about it, and we'll see if they play the teacher there. So that is our show for the week. Thank you for tuning in. Next week on the program, is it next week or is it the week after? I don't know. Okay. We might have a bye week again. We've had a couple weeks off in between shows, but we're slowing down a little bit for a minute. Next week on the program, we have Vonda Shepherd on the program. So again, actually, that's the week after next. But that's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in, and for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.